So that's a good number to know, and it's a simple math. You just take the total POS collections and you divide it by the net patient revenue number. So it's just A divided by B, simple math, right? So, and you should be at 1% of net patient service revenue, which what that means is 1% of all the patient payments that come in, you should be able to collect prior to service versus after service, right? So the committee defined a POS collection as any and every dollar that's collected and posted prior to and including discharge date. Okay, that's the NAHAM standard, and that was, again, gosh, 2 years of debating that one, you know. And we finally landed on that, and everybody was in agreement, and it was a lot of fun to go through that process. But yeah, so it's up to and including discharge date. And that's the NAHAM standard. You know, people say, well, we go to 3 days, we get post-discharge, 10 days post-discharge, 30 days. Really? Come on. You're going to get some insurance money in there. You're going to get some statement mail, you know, from the patient in there. So the next one is POS collections divided by total patient collections. And that's a really cool one. I like this one because it says all the money that the patient's paid you regardless of when, take that and divide it by the discharge date. So 30% of the money we should get in advance of discharge date, right? So that means 70% you get after, right? So that's what that one means. Any questions about that one? It's kind of a new one for the industry. And so the committee decided we would do 30, 40, and 50%, right? That we want to be able to get, at some point, 50% of the cash that comes from patients in advance of service versus after service. And if you think about it, that was really the whole goal of the committee, was we wanted to push everything up front before patient service. If you get it done before patient service, everything works better. It's after service that it all falls apart, both insurance, denials, patient ability to get the money, how much you're going to get it, your cost to collect to get it, right? And we've heard all the stats from the great presenters so far. So POS collection opportunity rate. This one, your CFOs love this. Collections divided by estimations, right? So it's the dollars you collected, let's say the month of September, divided by the estimated dollars you could have collected, right? And so the standards are, the benchmarks are 30%, 45%, 60%. So not too high, right? We're not setting a bar so high that you just can't meet it. But it's good benchmarks to start with, and we find that most hospitals are below 30. There's a lot more talk about POS collections and estimation than there actually is doing. So, right? I mean, my guess is maybe 25, 30% of the market has estimators, right? And about half of those, they're inaccurate or they're not automated, and so it's problematic, right? So it's a new thing. It's still very new, still very young. So don't feel bad if y'all hadn't gone down that journey yet, but you will eventually. Okay, total POS dollars collected, and there's no benchmarks there because it's just a total number, right? How much did you collect prior to service? And then this one here is interesting. It's accounts collected on divided by total regs. So it's the percentage of patient accounts that you collected something on. It doesn't matter if it was $1,000 or $1, right? And why did we put that in there? Well, because the surgery folks can get a whole lot more per account than the ED folks, right? And so hospitals that want to have more of a level playing field regardless of service type, they like that one. Okay, conversion rate of uninsured. Insured patients converted divided by total uninsured patients. So you count up all your uninsured patients and you divide it by the number that you were able to convert to something other than self-pay, right? So there's a lot of things you could convert them to: Medicaid, payment plans, discounts, loans, all that kind of stuff. So that's the point of that one. So 30% is the goal for the best of the conversion rate of uninsured. Patient experience, average wait time, patient access satisfaction rate. I'm going to fly through these because we're running out of time. Need to give my friend Terry time here. Critical processes, service authorization rate, insurance resolution rate, necessity resolution rate, quality resolution rate. I'll make that a little bigger for y'all. And so the critical processes are just what they are. I mean, just what it sounds like. They're critical processes that you have to do or you're not going to get paid, right? You're not going to get paid without the auth if it's required. But we didn't want to just measure activity, right? We didn't want to just measure how many times did you push the button, right? Okay? We wanted to measure outcomes, right? And so with systems today, you can automatically identify quality failures, necessity failures, insurance failures, auths required, and divide that number into, well, how many did they resolve out of the failures that you identified? Does that make sense? So if I had 10 failures today of one of those critical processes and I resolved 8 of them, I've got an 80% resolution rate for that critical process. Make sense? Okay. So we really wanted to push this forward in thinking of, okay, what do we want access teams to do, right? We want these things to lead, provide some leadership to access, and so that's why we did the resolution rate of all these here. So pretty neat stuff. It's going to be a while before we really adopt those. That's a given. Productivity, insurance verification rate, scheduled patient rate, number of scheduled patients divided by expected registrations. Pre-registration rate is pre-regs initiated divided by scheduled patients. Pre-reg completion rate, one of my favorites, is how many pre-regs were completed at the tier that you want. So reference back to the 4 tiers out of the ones that you started or initiated. So what's your pre-reg completion rate? Not just what's your pre-reg rate. Make sense? Okay. Average reg time, average regs per person per day. That's a good productivity standard. And then cost per reg, and we refer to the NAHAM FTE calculator there for that. And then reg accuracy rate and final accuracy rate. And you can see all the good, better, best numbers are there for you to kind of compare to and sort of think about, well, where are we? Where should we be? Can we go get to good and then go from good to better and so forth? So those are the 22 access keys as of January. And so what I want to show you now is a little sneak preview. I think last time I was here, I gave y'all a sneak preview of this. How many of y'all remember that? Well, we hadn't even published it yet. So you guys are kind of like special. You know, you get all the new stuff first. Let me get this out of the way. So version 3 is going to have 4 more KPIs. Estimates to registrations rate, estimation accuracy rate. How about that one? Right? That's a good one. Identity resolution rate. Right, Nancy? You inspired the group with that one, no doubt. And then duplicate MRN rate. Okay, so pretty cool stuff. And we're still debating exactly, you can see the math that we've come up with at this point and the good, better, best, but that's still in debate and has not been approved by the board yet. So fellow board members, forgive me for showing this in advance. Terry, sorry. But I thought y'all might want to see, just, we're continuing to think about what else can we add to the access keys and then the good, better, best, right, the benchmarks. So now I'm going to fly through this and give the mic to Terry. These are, not only did we come up with KPIs and benchmarks and all this cool stuff, but we came up with best practices, right? So this is how processes should happen. And so here's an example of one that's POS collections best practices, and I've got it printed here. So I'm just going to fly through this. I will stop on this, train them on the soft skills, the technical skills, and then train them on the soft skills. So I'll fly through that. And then to give it to you, Terry, you can come on up while I tee you up. 3 keys to improving performance of those KPIs. Are you ready?
Ah, there you go.
It's all yours, Terry.
Thanks, Paul. Paul and I had dinner Sunday night when we got in here, and he asked me, how did this all happen? How did Bridgefront connect with NAHAM to tie into the access keys? And truly, it was this meeting last year where Paul shared the information from the Industry Standards Committee. I took that back to my management team and I said, guys, this is something that is going to be the benchmark of what you guys do every day. You know, as we spent time on map keys with HFMA 6 years ago at Bridgefront, now Litmos Healthcare, this was part of that idea to say, what are the industry things, the industry measures that you're working towards, and how do we support you with that? How do we provide the training that is part of that? So one of the things that, a couple of the things that we did with access keys to connect it to training, I work with some of you guys in the room as clients. I work with Emory University in Atlanta and Nassau University in New York and a bunch of other large entities. And they're always asking about, you know, how do we make sure that the kind of training that we provide is the best and supports best practices. So a couple of the things about the access key training that the National NAHAM Committee, obviously this is a nationally recognized standard. You know, 2 to 3 years from now, when you say, remember when we went to NEHAM and we saw access keys, and now we're sharing benchmarks among Tier 3 hospitals in this chapter or across the United States or whatever. These are going to be nationally recognized measures. We provide the learning plan that supports your specific challenges, and you're going to see that in a minute. We talked, when you stopped by the booth, and we talked about MSPQ and time of service collections and all those sorts of things. We're providing that support. When you take your limited dollars for training and somebody says to you, tell me what the ROI is on that. Tell me what the return on investment is on that. You say, what is our time of service collections now? What can it be? Those are the kind of support things that we provide. Finally, the KPI goals that Paul mentioned and team accountability is part of that. And we're just going down here, right? So when I ask my clients across the Northeast, what are the most important key performance measures, they've identified these. Obviously, POS collections, we talk a lot about MSP, customer communication. We're looking down the road and we're seeing how we affect quality in the front end. You know, how can we provide support to that? Better communication to our customers is how we do that, and I'll share some of that with you. Finally, the efficiency and productivity, reg verification, pre-reg, and the data integrity piece. Nancy's been nice enough to, her committee at National has been nice enough to include some of our Bridgefront information, Nancy, in the data integrity toolkit, and we sure appreciate that as well. So here's an example. When you look at the access keys for NAHAM, number one is that point of service collections over net patient service revenue. And how many of you have taken a Bridgefront course or taken a Rev Cycle Library course here? A bunch of you, great. In the past, we have said, here's the entire revenue cycle library. Or we've said, Sandra, we've said Rev Cycle Library 101. And there are 27 courses in there. What we've done is taken all 80 courses that are in Revenue Cycle 101, 201, 301, medical collections, revenue cycle compliance, all those libraries, and we've boiled them down to affect the KPI. So if that key performance indicator is point of service collections over net patient service revenue, here are the 13 courses that you take. Less than 4 hours total commitment for your staff, a couple of bucks a user. You deploy that, you will see change, and I will share change with you in some of the success stories that we've had. Here's a sample of one of those courses. If you remember, some of you have taken a Bridgefront course and assigned on to Bridge 1 and put your username and password in. What you see on the screen is a table of contents over here, but the focus over there. And this focus of the the learning objectives. These are the assumptions and preconceptions that a patient access person brings to the table when you say to them, I know I didn't hire you to do collections, but here's what I want you to achieve. And when you train them, patients want to pay for their health care. They feel satisfaction when successfully paying their bills, which we all do. Don't prejudge patients' ability to pay. So our courses are not tactical in nature, saying, here's how you collect. Some of them are, but a lot of them are about the why of doing this. Why is this important? We talked a little bit, I forget who it was in the booth, that we talked about MSPQ. Every time I talk about Medicare as secondary payer now, a light goes on with folks because they know that's another thing they're getting dinged for. So it's one of those things, how are we doing with Medicare as secondary payer? Again, course links that say why coordination of benefits matters. How do you do a secondary payer practice scenario? And one of the examples there is, I missed that. I'll have to share that with you again because I have a screen capture there that obviously didn't show up here. Here's customer communications, the exceptional patient experience, 16 rules to live by. And as Catherine leaves to go to the airport, Catherine, these are your 16 house rules. I was trying to get to these before you left, but these are Catherine's house rules. You know, if you sat in Catherine's keynote address yesterday, break the ice. Notice when someone looks confused and stop to help. Take time for courtesy. Keep people informed. Anticipate needs. Handle with care. Maintain dignity. Catherine, those are right in the zone of what you were talking about yesterday. So the 16 rules of improving the patient experience is one of those courses. Pre-reg, Paul identified the pre-reg, verified registration, total registrations, course links for those. We provide the verification flow. Most of our courses are you can edit that flow and say, here's how it works at Bassett, or here's how it works at Cooper. Those kind of things are available to you. Data integrity, finally. Making sure that registration accuracy, those sorts of things, how to handle the MPI, patient interviewing techniques, that sort of thing. This set of courses, when you have a data integrity issue inside, this set of courses gets applied to those users. Here's a sample of the master patient index. I hope you're still not using those computers. That's a computer from 100 years ago. Here's a case study. You know, I've been privileged enough to work for some of the largest hospital groups in the United States. One of them, Adventist Health in Orlando, Florida. Park Ridge Health is one of the 44 hospitals that provides care. They're in beautiful Hendersonville, North Carolina, and up near Asheville in the mountains. Adventist has a nationwide attack on point of service collections. So what they have done is research the historical point of service collection results. They can take you back 10 years in most of their hospitals on what their point of service collection successes have been. They provide numerical targets for their teams by user on a monthly basis and say, here's your target for that. We came along and said, here's the content that we can provide to improve what your patient access folks are doing. And finally, they share those the results with the management team. So I'm not going to bore you with a lot of graphs here, but suffice it to say that 2014, this is upfront collection trends. What you're seeing is just as training is starting in here, these numbers start to peak upward. Here is upfront collection percentage change 2014. So training happens in here, 42% month over month collections, 27-20. You can imagine what this does to the board and what it does to the CEO and the CFO of this organization to say that we've acquired this training And these numbers have changed dramatically. I saw somebody put numbers up this morning that were similar to these. Somebody was doing $50,000 a month and they were doing 111. I think that was Robert Wood Johnson or somebody this morning. Very similar to this. Finally, dollars, average collections per day just in the ER, up, 870 up to 1,300 kinds of things. This is not only about training. Oh my gosh, Litmos Health Care training this is the magic bullet, everything is going to be taken care of now. You know and I know when you manage people that what you focus on is what they focus on. When you provide them with a reason why and tools to succeed, that's when these numbers change. And that's what we found with Adventist. Here's some comments. Here's Pam Meese. Pam is the Regional Director of Patient Access for the Southeast region. Concise and plain-speaking training helps the staff understand what's expected, at least a 20% uptick in collections. I like this one. This is Lisa Allen. Useful tool in allowing me to be aware of the many ways to collect money from patients. Helpful wording and catchphrase. How would you like to take care of that today? Getting straight to the point and informative makes the patient feel more at ease with paying their bill. One of the interesting things about Park Ridge Health was when I get down to the nitty-gritty and said, who are these users? Colin Carey, who is the patient access director at Park Ridge, said, my top performer is a 19-year-old woman right out of high school. And she took the training and she said, oh, this is what we should do. And I'm thinking, that's really interesting. We spend a lot of time trying to change culture and change habit in the things that our folks are doing. When you provide them with this support, things change. Here's Kevin Morgan. He's one of their top performers. Sat me in front of a conversational mirror. I didn't write this. Somebody wrote this. This is great writing, and helped me understand why I might be uncomfortable speaking with patients about their financial responsibility. Once I understood my own issues, I was able to move beyond them and have a genuinely confident, professional, and productive conversation. It's really interesting and very well said. So what happened was Adventist expanded to 5 hospitals in the Southeast region. We're beginning in the Midwest region, which is 9 hospitals that surround Chicago. And I'm going to turn you back to Paul for case study number 2.
Sure. Back on. Okay, case study number 2, DCH in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, a 4-hospital system. Again, this is to encourage you, right? Some of you guys are already achieving these kind of numbers, but they were doing about $70,000 a month, and in 5 months, they hit $500,000 a month. It's amazing, isn't it? 47%, this is really awesome. 47% of the increase in the cash, right, of the delta between the 70 and the 500, pretty much half were from patients that had prior bad debt. Now think about that a second. Remember our bad debt conversation, right, and how you can move the bad debt? See, this is an interesting conversation that CFOs have with us sometimes. They will say to us, if you can believe this, well, okay, upfront cash collections, that sounds great, but you know what? That's just money we would get in the back anyway. We're just getting it earlier. But I'm not interested in earlier money. I'm interested in more money, right? New money. And so, okay, time value money, cost to collect, I get it, but that's not as interesting to me. I've literally had 3 CFOs tell me that, right? And so my answer is, oh, wait a minute, it is new money. Half of the increase were from people that had prior bad debt, and so it's very likely those people would have continued to have bad debt. And it's interesting, a lot of this, probably 80-20 of it, and this is something, Christian, you and I were talking about, is people that have insurance, 80% of them, and it's balanced after insurance, right? It's a high deductible copay, you know the deal. So, it's not the self-pay. Really, that's the real opportunity. It's the balance after insurance, because we've trained in America people to not collect, right? That don't worry about it, we'll bill you, you know. And then what do? They go home, they get the first bill, they throw it away. The second bill, they throw it away. The 10th bill, they throw it away. It's eventually they're going to leave me alone, right? And they should be happy because the insurance paid them 80%, right? And so we've trained the whole country that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, right? And so, you know, we as an industry are really swimming upstream to change this whole mindset. It is a national culture shift, right? It's not just in the booth with the registrar and talking to the patient. It's not just the board that you have to change how they think about this. It's not just your community, it's the whole country, right? And so we're gonna tackle this because it has to happen. You know, we can't be Blockbuster and see Netflix come in, right? We can't let health, you know, we've got an opportunity here, an incredible opportunity if we'll seize it. So back to DCH, 3 complaints from patients in those 5 months, 3. How about that? That's pretty cool, isn't it? And they reclassified $64 million from bad debt to charity. Yeah, that's $64 million. Right. So can you move the bad debt to charity ratio at your hospital? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the KPI 6 of conversion rate of uninsured. And just a couple of comments from a DCH patient. Now I don't get slammed with surprises when I open my mail because it's explained up front, right? So that makes you feel better that the patients see it that way. And then the director there says, my patient access services operation is no longer a cost center, but rather a revenue center. That's a game changer right there, y'all. When your CFO and the board all the way down sees patient access as a revenue generating department, right? How many times have you heard that in your career in patient access? I heard that all the time. Well, we can't get you new computers, we can't get you new FTEs, we can't get you this, we can't get you that. Why? Because you're not a revenue producing department. Oh, really? Okay, it's changing, isn't it? UAB Medicine, one of the biggest health systems in Alabama, you can see what they were doing back in these years here, and then in 2015 they implemented these KPIs and estimation and collections processes and training and culture shift